Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're maybe challenging some usual ideas about innovation. It's easy to get caught up in the next flashy product, the big thing. But what if real sustainable success comes from something, well, something much smaller, almost invisible sometimes?
That's really the heart of what the source material calls the 1% edge. It's this idea, right, that small, disciplined, incremental changes, you apply them consistently across everything in a business.
Yeah.
They can add up. They lead to remarkable relevance and success,
Yeah.
even when the market's going crazy.
I really like the analogy they use. It's simple but powerful. Think about water. At 211 degrees, yeah, it's hot, just hot water. But add just one more degree, hit 212.
And it boils.
Exactly. It transforms, becomes steam, something that can actually power an engine. That single degree makes all the difference.
And it's that kind of small shift, that turning up the heat just a bit, that can ignite a business. So our goal in this deep dive, it's really to give you a clearer way to see these principles in action. We want to unpack how companies can shift from always reacting, scrambling, to being genuinely proactive. We'll share concrete examples, insights, things you can hopefully use to understand market dynamics better, or maybe even in your own work.
Okay, so let's start on the flip side then. The risks of not doing this, the carols of stagnation. We hear so much about chasing the next big thing, but the source material actually warns against just doing that, focusing only on launching the, quote, next cool, sexy product. It says that can be a sure path to the business graveyard.
It's a strong warning, definitely. And you see it with those one-hit wonders, right? Things that exploded but then just vanished. Like Pet Rocks, Cabbage Patch Kids, Rubik's Cubes even. They were huge phenomena. But they didn't last because that initial spark wasn't followed by, constant small adaptations.
Yeah, and a classic, almost painful example here is Radio Shack. Wow. So many of us remember them. They were the place for electronics for ages. They started with ham radio guys, CB enthusiasts in the 70s.
Yeah.
If you were a DIY electronics hobbyist, that was your go-to. Knowledgeable staff, loyal customers.
And what's really interesting, maybe even tragic, is that Radio Shack did innovate. They had the TRS-80, one of the very first mass-market personal computers, a huge deal. But instead of building on that incrementally, maybe updating inventory consistently, modernizing the stores, getting online sooner, they sort of clung to old ways. That hardware business, it just stopped being profitable because those small, continuous adjustments weren't made.
And the later attempts felt like too little, too late, didn't they? E-commerce was slow, the inventory got really confusing, that weird mix, plus those aggressive sales tactics really turned people off, and boom, bankruptcy. Makes you wonder, could they ever come back now? That core DIY crowd, they've definitely found other places to go.
It's a tough question. The source suggests, never say never. If they really, truly embraced continuous iterative change, maybe. But it's a long shot. Now, contrast that with IBM, an incredible turnaround story. For decades, IBM was untouchable. Office equipment, early computers, the gold standard. But by the early 90s, they were just too big, too slow to react to the PC revolution, the new software landscape.
And the impact was just massive. That $8 billion loss in '93, that was the largest in U.S. corporate history at the time. It wasn't just a stumble, it was almost fatal for Big Blue.
Absolutely, a near-death experience. But here's the thing. They didn't collapse. They made this huge yet strategically incremental pivot. They systematically, piece by piece, moved away from their traditional hardware core, shifted all that brainpower towards IT expertise, computing services, servers. It wasn't one giant leap, though. It was thousands of smaller, calculated steps. Retraining people, restructuring deals, rebuilding relationships, and eventually, they became a leader in enterprise servers, data, cloud solutions.
Wow. So the big takeaway here for you listening, it's just this vital need for constant self-checking, constant renewal. Don't wait for the crisis. The source really pushes businesses to regularly kind of micro-audit themselves. Look at sales, look at productivity, actively hunt for those 1% tweaks or the small threats before they blow up.
Precisely. It's about building that proactive muscle. Okay, so if stagnation is the danger zone, how do companies actually innovate? How do they capture new opportunities, often with, like you said, surprisingly small changes?
This is where it gets fun. That idea, everything old can be new again. It's fascinating. Take instant cameras, Polaroid tech, basically. But Fujifilm, even Polaroid itself, they're booming again. Or hula hoops. My grandparents had them, I did. Now millennials are using weighted ones for exercise.
Right. It's not a brand new invention, is it? It's an old idea, just tweaked. Given that 1% edge for a new generation or a new use case.
Yep.
And you see these new spins on old industries elsewhere, too. Look at Vroom in the used car market. Selling used cars online isn't totally new, but Their edge is tackling the hassle. They buy the cars, refurbish them, guarantee them. They're making small changes all along the process to build trust and reduce friction in a notoriously difficult industry.
Or think about learning piano online, e-learning. For anyone who, like me, wishes they hadn't quit lessons as a kid, technology makes it convenient, affordable, customized. It's filling that market void by making something old totally accessible in a new way.
And these examples really point to a powerful strategy the source calls piggybacking. Basically, find something that's already taking off, a fast-growing startup, a hot new sector, and then create a service or product that makes that thing easier or better or more profitable for people to use.
The Gibbet story is just perfect for this, isn't it? Cherie Schmelzer, stay-at-home mom, starts sticking little decorations on her kids' Crocs. That's it.
She didn't invent a shoe.
No. She added a tiny personalization edge to a product that was already popular. And demand just exploded from, what, $200K to $2 million in 6 months.
Incredible growth. And Crocs saw it, right? They saw the synergy, bought Gibbets for $10 million, made those little charms part of their official offering. That's textbook piggybacking.
Spotting the small thing that enhances the big trend. Brilliant.
Another really critical angle on innovation is deliberately diversifying who you sell to. Tesla is an interesting case. Their early Model S mostly appealed to, well, the source calls them geeked out males. Only about 13% women buyers.
Right, and they knew that was limiting. So for the Model X, before they finalized it, they specifically ran focus groups with women, SUV drivers, minivan drivers, and based on that feedback, small things, door handles, storage, they tweaked the design. Elon Musk even predicted it would sell slightly more to women. That's using that 1% edge to find and win over a new customer group.
Which brings us to a really classic battle. P&G versus Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club just blew up the razor market, didn't they? Simple idea. Cheap razors, subscription, delivered to your door. P&G, this giant. They were caught completely flat-footed. Gillette lost market share for 6 years straight.
It was a total David and Goliath thing. But P&G's response shows how big companies can adapt. They launched their own Gillette Shave Club, sure, direct competition. But they didn't stop there. They started exploring subscriptions for Tide Pods. Even tested a laundry pickup and delivery service in Chicago with Tide cars. They were looking for those adjacent conveniences.
Yeah, they weren't just fighting back on razors. They were strategically adjusting their whole approach, adding related services focused on convenience. It shows that even giants can find that edge. And this applies more broadly, too, like Springer Equipment adding salvaged forklift parts, or a medical device company realizing they could offer ongoing training. Sometimes it even means buying related companies to branch out.
Okay, so if you're leading a company, how do you actually steer the ship through all this? Make these kinds of impactful changes and keep everyone pulling in the same direction. This brings us to leadership, reason, and building teams that work. The source really stresses that leaders need to pick a path and, stick with it. Avoid that flavor of the month chaos that just kills morale.
Right. And the 1% edge process itself kind of provides a structure for that. It's a way to evaluate ideas, plan carefully, execute, and then crucially measure the results. And leaders need to be transparent about the how and the why. Explaining decisions builds that buy-in.
Makes total sense. But then there's the diversity piece. How do you get diverse teams, which you need for fresh ideas, especially in diverse markets? How do you get them all rowing in the same direction? The source talks about this natural tension.
It's a real challenge. And look at the demographics. The Brookings Institution data, it shows millennials are making the U.S. a majority-minority nation projected by 2044. Some states are already there for that generation. So if your customers are diverse, your team needs to reflect that to truly understand them. The source puts it bluntly, working only with people who look like you. It might feel comfy, but it breeds conformity. And conformity kills innovation.
Wow, yeah, powerful point. Which leads to another key thing for leaders. Admitting what you don't know. There's a great story in the source about an internet bookseller founder. Smart guy, finance background, but apparently computer illiterate. Initially, he tried to run the tech side himself, but he quickly realized, okay, I'm in over my head here.
And he did the smart thing. He stepped back, let others handle the tech and marketing while he focused on his strengths, finance, fulfillment. It really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Are you the best person for every part of the job? Or is the real 1% edge knowing when to trust someone else's expertise?
That's a big one. And speaking of trusting your team, how do you actually create space for creativity? Like Intuit, giving employees 10% unstructured think time. Right. And their legal team even made toolkits so managers could try stuff without waiting months for approval. IT/test environment setup times.
Yeah.
That's real commitment to letting ideas bubble up.
Absolutely. Structuring time for creativity works. Google's research found teams are way better than individuals at spotting mistakes, finding solutions, and they even report higher job satisfaction. And Harvard Business Review found diverse teams. They dig into facts more carefully, make fewer errors, it pays off.
But none of that happens without trust, right? Two-way trust. The source hammers this home. Leaders sticking to their values consistently. Think Chick-fil-A staying closed on Sundays because of their beliefs, or Godecker's Appliances holding firm on their principles. That consistency builds a foundation of trust.
And that trust is critical when you look at the bigger picture, like employee disengagement. That Gallup stat from 2017, 70% of U.S. workers feeling disengaged. That's huge. And it has real costs, lower productivity, more theft, negativity spreading. It even drives customers away.
You see the extreme results in cases like Blue Apron. The source mentions serious workplace issues, even violence, health violations, and speculation that these internal problems actually delayed their IPO. It often starts with a breakdown of trust and engagement.
Which raises a key question. How do you find the hidden potential within your team? Dan Coughlin's idea is simple but smart. Just ask people about their strengths and passions outside their job description. And State Street Corporation did that cool internal TED event. Let employees share their unique knowledge. What a way to uncover hidden talents right under your nose.
That's really clever. Okay, so you find internal talent, but you also need to hire well. And the source says the shortage of excellent candidates is perennially cited as one of the biggest problems. So when you do find someone great who's willing to move, you're probably not the only one interested. Dragging your feet in the hiring process, that can kill the deal instantly.
And once they're in, you got to keep them.
Yeah.
The number one reason people quit: problems with their manager, usually their direct supervisor. It highlights that tricky thing. Promoting your star player doesn't always work if they can't manage or relate to the, average players on the team. Different skills needed.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered the internal side, leadership, teams, engagement. Let's shift focus outward now to the customer, putting them right at the center of it all. The source is clear. The customer experience, that is the playing field now. And loyalty, that's the prize. The relationship goes way deeper than the product.
Yeah, and a huge piece of that today is responsiveness, real time. The internet age demands it. Like Babe Ruth said, right? Yesterday's home runs don't win today's games. You have to deliver now. And sometimes that means bending the rules a bit, that do whatever it takes idea.
Oh, like the eye doctor story. Their tracking said the contacts were delivered, but the customer insisted they hadn't arrived. So the doctor just sent another pair, no questions asked. Turns out the first pair went to the wrong house. The doctor took responsibility anyway. Imagine the loyalty that built.
Exactly. Or the discount shoe store honoring a coupon that was almost a year old, just for $10. They gained a customer for life. Meanwhile, another store loses someone over a coupon that's 2 days expired. Small gestures, huge impact.
It's about the goodwill.
Definitely. And making service easy is huge, too. That survey finding 64% of people start looking for answers on a website first. They want self-service. But if that fails, they expect a seamless switch to something like online chat. And the absolute killer, making them repeat their whole story over and over again at each step. Don't do that.
Ugh. Yes. The retelling of the tale of woe. So frustrating. But then sometimes it's the personal touch that makes the difference. Like that American Airlines rep proactively calling a traveler after a really rough travel day. The traveler vented, and the rep just listened, apologized, and boom, 10,000 miles and a $100 voucher unprompted.
Wow. That's going above and beyond. Creates a real connection. Or GoDaddy calling customers just to check satisfaction, not to sell something.
Yeah.
Maybe offering a gift card, little things. And sometimes, a personal call from the owner or a senior manager, especially to customers you've lost. That can give you the unvarnished truth in a way surveys never will.
Because everyone wants to feel a bit special, right? Like the local restaurant knowing your name, or Duffy's Sports Bar with their Hall of Famer loyalty program, or my airline status, free bags, priority boarding, upgrades. It's not life-changing, but it's that little bit of extra value that keeps you coming back.
And that VIP feeling, it directly fuels word of mouth, which in today's world of social media and review sites gets amplified massively. That's why monitoring online feedback is crucial. Like that timeshare company jumping on a long Facebook complaint within 10 minutes. That shows everyone watching that they care and they respond.
Okay, so all these interactions, they really tie back to your brand promise, don't they? What your brand fundamentally stands for, what you promise the market. But the source points out this brand promise cap. Saying it is one thing.
Delivering it consistently is another. That Gallup finding only 27% of employees strongly feel they always deliver on the brand promise, that's a big gap.
So how do you know if you're actually closing that gap? Voice of customer programs, right? FOSI.
Exactly. Like Intuit's We Want to Hear From You page. They even offer gift cards or software for feedback. They want that data. Collecting data from social media, CRM systems, website traffic, it's all about understanding customer behavior, maybe even predicting it.
And beyond data, how do you make the brand feel human? Storytelling. People connect with stories. They bring your brand to life, like that Build-A-Bear ad with the dad and daughter. It wasn't about the stuffing machine. It was about the emotion, the memory.
Or Steve Jobs unveiling the iPhone. It wasn't just a list of specs, it was theater. He built suspense, told a story about changing the world. The core idea is selling sentiments, not just stuff. Hotels sell a comfortable, safe, clean place to sleep. That's why they obsess over bedding, offer pillow menus. A florist sells sentiment, not just flowers.
Which leads to this idea of customer intimacy, going beyond just good service. It's about becoming a real partner, understanding their needs almost as well as they do.
Yeah, it's a shift from the old days of one-way communication, remember the myth about subliminal messages, to today, where dialogue is expected. And younger generations, like millennials, they're actually pretty willing to share data, 86% of them, if it means better products and services. But you have to earn that trust first.
Earning that trust gives you that true market advantage.
Now, while we're focused on the customer, we do have to acknowledge sometimes you get those disruptive customers. The source calls them a pain in the you-know-what. Pickiness is one thing, but behavior that crosses the line, disrespecting staff, ignoring boundaries, dishonesty, constant negativity, that's different.
And what's the advice there? Put your team first. Protect them from that abuse. Because if your team feels unsafe or constantly attacked, productivity tanks, turnover spikes, it undermines everything else you're trying to build with good customers. It's about protecting that internal 1% edge.
Okay, final big area. Operational efficiency and financial strength. This might sound a bit dry compared to innovation, but it's absolutely essential. Having strong processes, it seems counterintuitive for agility, but the source argues it's vital. The most successful companies, they build repeatable processes for consistent delivery. Especially for smaller businesses, processes need to be teachable, repeatable, and delivered the same way every time.
Like that story of the New York deli changing hands. The food was still good, but it wasn't consistent. That tiny shift lost them a loyal customer. That expectation wasn't met. So how does tech help here? iPad ordering in restaurants seems like a great example.
Oh, definitely a win-win. Can reduce staffing needs, speed things up. Customers often like the control. And sometimes it reveals things you didn't even know. Like that place where comps suddenly jumped from $400 to $4,000 a month once they could track it accurately via the iPads. Oops.
Oh, yeah. Or airline self-serve kiosks. Cuts costs down to pennies for the airline, and most travelers love skipping the line. Same with grocery self-checkout.
And look at Amazon pushing the boundaries. Dash buttons for instant reordering. Amazon Go stores with no checkout lines. They're constantly using tech for efficiency.
But here's the critical 1% caution, right? You have to integrate tech without messing up the customer experience. Saving money on operations is pointless if it drives away revenue because customers hate the new system.
That's the tightrope walk. And strategic IT is part of that. The advantage often comes from accessing assets now, cloud services, CRM platforms, rather than owning everything outright. Think about subscription CRM versus building your own homegrown software. The subscription model offers flexibility, avoids huge upfront costs, and getting locked into complex custom code that's hard to tweak incrementally.
Okay, and then there's the tough part, cutting dead weight. Sometimes it's people who aren't a fit, sometimes it's products or whole market segments that just aren't working.
It's difficult but necessary. You can't keep pouring resources into things that consistently lose money or drag the team down. Though the McDonald's example is interesting. Hamburgers are low margin, fries are high profit. But they can't just cut burgers, can they? They're essential to the whole offering.
Right, so it's nuanced, but the principle holds. Don't throw good money after bad. You need that cutoff point where you decide if a new venture isn't delivering that incremental value.
And focusing on revenue and cash flow is key. High performers don't just chase sales growth. They often drive profit by systematically lowering expenses through being smarter operationally. The source suggests really digging into why growth might be stalling before you spend big money trying to fix it.
And finding ways to use what you already have, right? Turning excess capacity into cash.
Exactly. If you sell products, maybe using Groupon strategically for stuff that's about to expire or is overstocked. If you're service-based, like Uber drivers doing Uber Eats in downtime, or a printing company taking subcontract work to keep machines busy, even renting out unused office space.
And that financial metric, the cash conversion cycle, CCC, sounds complicated, but the idea is simple.
It is. Days inventory sits around, plus days it takes customers to pay you, minus days you take to pay your suppliers. Lower number is better. Means cash is flowing quickly through the business. Good operational health.
Okay, last big financial piece. Pricing. This is fascinating, the psychology of it.
Totally. Think Walmart versus Saks Fifth Avenue. At Walmart, you see carts full of stuff just abandoned. At Saks, you rarely see someone ditching a $1,000 handbag at the till. It's psychologically harder to walk away from a high-value commitment.
And the danger of always discounting. Like Kmart trying to beat Walmart purely on price. They just got seen as cheap, attracted customers and only loyal to the lowest price, and ultimately, bankruptcy.
It's a race to the bottom you often can't win. Which brings us to the 1% pricing factor. This is powerful. The idea is that a small, say 1% price increase often falls almost entirely to the bottom line. Your costs don't really go up much for that 1% bump, so it's nearly pure profit. A tiny tweak with potentially huge impact.
And yet, companies often undervalue their stuff, don't they? Especially new things. They're too close to it or scared of competitors, and they just leave money on the table.
They do. That's why tracking those key metrics is vital. Customer acquisition cost TAC, how much does it cost in sales and marketing to get one new customer? And lifetime value LTV, how much revenue do you expect from that customer over their entire relationship with you? Knowing SAC and LTV helps you make much smarter, data-driven decisions about pricing, marketing spend, everything.
Wow. Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. This whole deep dive into the 1% edge. What's the big picture? It seems pretty clear that real, lasting success, staying relevant, it's not always about those massive disruptive earthquakes. Often it's built brick by brick, consistent, disciplined, small improvements across everything, driven by really knowing your market, your customers, and what you're actually capable of doing well internally.
Yeah, the source uses that great line. When change is happening at 500 miles per hour, a small error in navigation can have a huge effect. It's so true. So yes, you need to be aware of the big currents, tech, the market, climate change, whatever they are. But real mastery seems to come from building on a solid foundation through those continuous 1% improvements. It's not just about competing anymore, is it? It's about actually thriving while everything is constantly shifting.
That's a really powerful way to end it. So for you listening, maybe the question is this. What's just 1% change you could think about making today in your business and how you work, maybe just in how you think about things, to start gaining that little bit of edge? Start small, be disciplined, and start turning up the heat.